One of those things that I really take for granted. You press that magic button, you expect your camping stove to fire up first time, every time. But have you ever wondered how it does it? There's no battery in there, there's no solar panels, yet it creates an electric spark which ignites your gas. Let me try and explain. This little button is called a piezo igniter, and when you press it, it creates something called piezo electricity. Lots of camping stoves have these little built-in igniters. Most Jetboil style cook systems have them, as well as some of the other standard stoves as well. This is the Soto Windmaster. So you've got to go back to the 1880s when Pierre and Jacques Curie were the pioneers of piezo electricity. They discovered that if you squashed a quartz crystal under a lot of pressure, it would produce an electric charge. They definitely didn't invent the piezo igniter, but the name piezo electricity came from the Greek word to squeeze. Turns out you can do this with lots of different crystals, including quartz, even sugar as well apparently. I'm not going to go into a big science lesson or anything like that, but the chemical name for quartz is silicon dioxide. So it's made up of silicon and oxygen molecules. Silicon is slightly positively charged and oxygen is slightly negatively charged. And because the molecule, when it's in its compound, is asymmetrical, when you squash it, you get a positive charge at one end and a negative charge at the other, which creates what they call a potential difference or a voltage. So basically what that meant was crushing the crystal turned mechanical energy into electrical energy. And it turns out with the crystals as well, it worked the other way around. So if you put an electrical charge to it, then it created mechanical energy. So the crystal would expand or change its shape a little bit. And the first real application of piezo electricity was in the First World War, where they used it for sonar. I think the French created it for submarines, just to be able to find out where other ships were, and they would bounce a signal out using piezo electricity or sonar, and then measure the time it took to get back to find out how far the ships were away. But what has any of that got to do with an igniter on a camping stove? It isn't just camping stove, it's the same technology in lighters and igniters for your oven at home. When you press this button, little spark comes out the end and it lights your butane. I've taken an old one of these apart, and inside you get this little contraption. So this is the actual piezo igniter bit. So it's the same sort of technology that is in here inside your stove. And inside there you've got a couple of little crystals, and you've got a spring-loaded hammer basically. So when you press this button in here, it releases the hammer, strikes the crystals, which creates a spark, a bit like lightning across these two wires, when you just have them a little bit apart. We'll see if I can get it to work and show you. I'll put it against this dark background so hopefully we can catch the spark. There you go. Bit like lightning, isn't it? So the hammer is spring loaded, press it in, it releases the hammer, strikes the crystals and creates a little bit of voltage just for a nanosecond, but that's enough as the gas is passing through your stove to light it. So these igniters do fail over time for a number of different reasons. So the crystal structure might dislodge, so it doesn't work properly. The gap where the spark has to jump across, so if that's been altered in some way, then maybe the spark can't jump across anymore. So even things like altitude can make a difference to the spark and how this piezo electricity works. So the pressure high up in the mountains is different to what it is lower down, so this can affect the molecular structure of the crystal, so they don't perform how you would like them to, and sometimes it's difficult to light your stove. So although these piezo igniters are magical, it's always good to have a backup of some sort. I don't know if you've tried those. You get like little MSR ones that are just like a little pushy igniter. I can never get a stove to light with those, they're just rubbish. If you take a lighter with you that's got some sort of wheel and flint on it, and you're pretty much guaranteed to get a spark with that. Even if you run out of gas on the lighter, you can still usually spark your stove with it. So although piezo electricity has been around since the 1880s. It's still used in many applications today, from quartz wristwatches. You've got ultrasound systems when you have a scan when you're having a baby, but obviously most importantly still for lighting your camping stove. Anyway, hope you found that video a little bit interesting. Thanks for watching. See you next time.